A pleasant Tuesday, everybody. Welcome into the It's Official podcast. Jeremy Plonk and Jeff Siegel representing First Bet and Express Bet. Happy holidays, Mr. Siegel, and happy holidays to all the listeners out there as we roll on towards not only Christmas and Hanukkah and all the great festivities. We've got Santa Anita opening day just a week away from today as well.
The day after Christmas. It's usual spot on the calendar, and entries will be drawn on Friday. Can't wait for that to dive in and start preparing for what I think will be a great day a week from today at Santa Anita. But we still have some topics to discuss from last week and from last year or this year as we come to the conclusion. So we've got lots of things to talk about as we wait for opening day at Santa Anita. And I think we've got something to say today, Jeremy, I think.
Absolutely. This will be our final It's Official of 2023. So without further ado, we go to the big board and we take our first topic of the week. It's a review of 2023, the year that we saw. Jeff Siegel, this year 2023 had its highs, had its lows, but perhaps nothing higher than what we saw on the racetrack in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile with the win by Cody's Wish, defending his title. It was a storybook year that had a sad ending with the passing of Cody Dorman the weekend of Breeders' Cup, but what a phenomenal finish on the racetrack for the racehorse Cody's Wish, who went out as a star on top at age 5.
I mean, he was the story of the year for sure, and for him to finish out his career on Breeders' Cup Day in the manner in which he did, life and death to the end, didn't know whether he was going to win or not. It looked like he was going to, then maybe he wasn't, and then he put his nose down at the right time. Just a fitting climax to a wonderful story that tragically ended the day after with the passing of Cody. But this was the way this storyline figured to play out. And it played out with a tremendous racehorse, Cody's Wish, who certainly, in my opinion anyway, earned Horse of the Year honors in victory.
And they're into the stretch, and it's National Treasure still there. Cody's Wish in between horses. Now up into second. On the outside, it's Skippy Longstocking. Here comes Cody's Wish alongside of National Treasure. Cody's Wish takes the lead. Cody's Wish and National Treasure coming down to the line. Fighting back National Treasure. Cody's Wish. Cody's Wish. I think he won it by a nose on the wire over National Treasure. Thank you, Cody, and thank you, Cody's Wish.
And what a story it was. I've taken part in this and gone to the website at Make-A-Wish Foundation. Encourage you to do the same during this holiday season. Help out the children of the world who need a little bit of a boost. And what a boost Cody's Wish, the horse, gave Cody Dorman. This photo from the Make-A-Wish Foundation website. Take a chance, if you can, to go to the website, wish.org, to donate. We told you about that back when the Breeders' Cup was complete in our wrap-up. And as we wrap up the season, I think it's a good time to bring that back up. Now, Jeff, this 2023 season for the 3-year-olds was a mixed bag, if you will. 3 different Triple Crown race winners, but they did all get together at the Travers. Arcangelo was best that day, and that's probably enough to make him the champion 3-year-old the way the season turned out. Arcangelo got the 2 big grade ones, of course, winning the Belmont Stakes as well. What do you make of the 3-year-old crop as we look back at 2023?
Well, disappointing only because we didn't really have a dominant runner until the Belmont. And then that dominant runner, Arcangelo, who proved his worth in the Travers, wasn't able to finish out the year. We were so much looking forward to having him run on Breeders' Cup Day in the Classic to see how he would compare to the older horses. That's really the way one of the ways you can evaluate the crop.
Right.
And then again, for the second year in a row, the Kentucky Derby winner didn't make it, Mage, and he's retired, as is Arcangelo. So I think it was probably a crop that was, I hate to use the word average, but it was probably what normal would be with no superstars in there.
Right.
But you always want to see these horses at least compete as a 4-year-old and continue on. And I don't know how many of these that participated in the Triple Crown races last year or this year will do. So, I mean, Arcangelo was a good colt. Don't get me wrong. Right. And Mage on one day anyway, as Rich Strike was the previous year, was a good colt.
Right.
But somewhat unfulfilled, I would say. Maybe you have a different opinion, but left me wanting a little bit more than we got.
We are expected to see National Treasure, the Preakness winner, back at age 4. That's a good sign. And as we just showed in the video with Cody's Wish winning the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, it was that nose desperate victory over National Treasure. So maybe that's a sign of things to come for that runner as he turns to age 4. But when they all showed down at Saratoga in the Travers, the Derby and Preakness winner weren't in the frame as they came to the wire. It was all about Arcangelo.
Forte still 5 lengths back in Disarm, trying to come through a narrow opening as Arcangelo has opened up a 3-length lead, and it's the Belmont winner in charge. Disarm gets loose late and is coming with a menacing bid. It's Arcangelo and Disarm 1-2. Arcangelo, another Travers for Javier Castellano, defeating Disarm. Tapatrice was third, and Forte a distant fourth in 2:02 and 1/5 seconds. Congratulations, Jenna Antonucci. What a training job.
And of course, Jenna Antonucci, one of the big names of 2023, winning the Big Sport of Turfdom Award from the Turf Riders. But that's not the real reason she's namely the star of the Humans for 2023. It's because she became the first female trainer to win a Triple Crown race when she was successful with Arcangelo in the Belmont Stakes. So a big year for Arcangelo, a bigger year for Jenna Antonucci, and female trainers worldwide certainly have their beacon and their glass ceiling shattered and something to aspire to. Jenna Antonucci breaking that glass ceiling this year, and congratulations to those folks. And I would expect they will be honored at the Eclipse Awards with the championship 3-year-old honors as well, Arcangelo. Jeff, we know the 3-year-olds get a lot of attention, and they're probably overrated in the public spotlight in terms of the greater scene in horse racing. Let's talk about some horses who were underrated. One for you and one for me this season in the racing game. Tell me about a horse that you thought didn't get the attention that he deserved.
Well, we both did this independently, and I came up with one and you came up with one. I actually like yours a little bit better than mine, but I'll give you the stage for that in a sec. But I always thought that Elite Power never really got the credit that he deserves. He was a colt that lost his first 3 races and then proceeded to win 8 out of his next 9. He was a fantastic sprinter. My only disappointment with him is he never got a chance to prove what he could do around 2 turns. And being a son of Curlin, I would think that he would have been just as good. Yeah. He went halfway around the world early in the year to win a major race. He won the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And if you go back and look at the Breeders' Cup Sprint, that was a really good race. And I mean, he beat Gunite, who was terrific. He beat the Chosen Braun, who came out of that race and won a stakes. Right. Hoist the Gold was well beaten in that race, came back and won the Cigar. Dr. Schivel, who had been beaten a photo in the Breeders' Cup, he was in behind those horses as well, one of the also-rans. And Speedboat Beach, who was in there, who might run back in the Malibu. Wouldn't surprise me if he wins that. That was one of the epic renewals of the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and yet I don't think anybody really talks about it because of the other things that happened on Breeders' Cup weekend. But again, overall, 13 starts, 9 wins, a second and a third, won 10 out of his last 11. I think I was wrong about that. I think 8 of the last 9 was not correct. I think it was more like 10 out of his last 11. Anyway, the bottom line is this. He was a fantastic horse. We'll see his babies run in a few years, and hopefully that he can reproduce himself. But I thought he was kind of overlooked a little bit, but maybe not as much as the one that you came up with.
Well, look, when you're the stablemate of Cody's Wish and you kind of do the same thing, 7 furlongs, a mile, that kind of effort with Elite Power, it's easy to be overlooked. I gave the nod to Idiomatic. She had just a fantastic season in the Distaff division, of course, culminated with the victory in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. But what a season. 9 starts, 8 wins, a second-place finish. Jeff, when you rattle off wins in the Delaware Handicap, the Personal Ensign, the Spinster, and the Breeders' Cup Distaff in succession, that is all-time great filly performance as far as the record goes. Yet nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to talk about Idiomatic as one of the star distaffers of the last decade or so, right? I mean, she's not going to be Zenyatta, she's not going to be Beholder, she's not going to be Songbird, she's not going to be in any of that kind of consideration. But when you talk pure resume, this season that she had this year was absolutely one for the ages. I got to admit, though, I did a little bit of a double take because I'm like, Idiomatic had a great year, and I went back and I'm like, did she win the distaff or not? It's like one of those things because like it just got lost in the shuffle with everything else that was so eye-catching and intriguing and newsworthy in the Breeders' Cup. That's why she was unheralded to me. And what a great season she had. I don't know how she stacks up with the others. Maybe she caught a crop this year that wasn't that strong in the distaff division, but there was Clairiere. There were some other good ones in there, during the course of this season in the distaff division. There was Nest at one point in time and others. So, this was, I thought, a pretty good distaff division throughout the year, and she had an all-time kind of season this year.
I'm glad we talked about her because in 3 years or whatever, when one of her foals goes through the ring at Keeneland or whatever, and I'm going to look at it, I'm saying, yeah, I forgot how good she was. It's staring you in the face in the catalog page, but you're right. She was unappreciated. Maybe she didn't win in brilliant style. Maybe she didn't win by a lot of lengths when she won, but she won. And isn't that the name of the game? So I like your pick, Idiomatic. Elite Power, I think we know him, but again, lost in the shuffle. And I think when he goes to stud and they start promoting him, they're going to have a lot to promote. And I actually think he's going to be very popular at stud, and hopefully his full run as well as he did.
Okay, let's finish on a note that looks back at 2023 with an eye forward towards 2024. Which horse do you think we're going to be talking about most in 2024 from this year?
I think it's going to be Nysos, if I'm right about him. He's 2 for 2. He's won both of his races. Here's a breeze that he had not too long ago, December the 10th. One thing about him is for a really, really good colt, he's so handy in the morning. He's never going to have to work in 58 or 111. He doesn't have to do that, which is one of the reasons why you can see him on the outside, why he was a big price in his first start at Del Mar. He didn't advertise himself, came back, won that race by 10, came back and won a stakes, training really, really well for Bob Baffert, son of Nyquist. He moves well. My first reaction, or not my first, but my reaction after his win in his second start of his career was that might be the best colt Bob's had, maybe since Justify. I mean, he's got a lot to prove since then, but I just think that he's got the look of that kind of horse because he's so handy. He's got speed, a beautiful athlete, beautiful mover. And I think next year, if he can stay healthy and stay sound, which is like 3/4 of the battle, if not more, I think he's going to rise to the top and become one of the epic 3-year-olds next year. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's our look back at 2023 on the It's Official podcast as we look ahead to 2024. Next up this week, the Triple Crown Tracker. Nysos isn't in action, but we're thinking Triple Crown. Jeff's got you teased and tantalized with a potential superstar there. On the racetrack this past week, we had a couple points preps towards the Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown Series. Let's go first to Los Alamitos, where it was Nysos stablemate Winstock pulling the upset in the Los Al Futurity.
3/16 to go, and Winstock joined on the inside by Stronghold. They're clear of Wind Me Up and Coach Prime. It's Winstock and Stronghold racing tightly. They bumped near the 16th. Coach Prime's coming after them late on the scene. Winstock's just the leader from Stronghold and Coach Prime, and Winstock has beaten Stronghold and Coach Prime, followed fourth by Wind Me Up.
So it's Winstock, not the Baffert most people thought would be in the winner's circle. Coach Prime favored in that one, but it's Winstock, the $700,000 purchase this April. He's by Solomania, New York bred. Jeff, he could have run in the New York Sire Stakes at Aqueduct for $500,000 against Statebreds. They decided to stay home at Los Al and run for $200,000. They did get graded stakes victory by doing so at Los Alamitos, but boy, I don't want to say rags to riches, but when you talk about a $6,000 stallion producing a $700,000 2-year-old and then becoming a graded stakes winner at 2, this isn't necessarily one from the right side of the tracks.
Not really, although, as you pointed out, $700,000 from the first crop of Solomini. He was if memory serves, I didn't look this up. I apologize. I should have. I don't even think Solomini won a stakes. He placed in a bunch of grade ones. I know that he was a good colt and son of Curlin, so he had a right. But he had won his maiden at Santa Anita back in mid-October by 7. Didn't get a great number, but I will say this. in victory, he did get a Byron number 2 points better than Coach Prime, who was all the rage. Was actually 4-5 in this race and had absolutely no excuse. I mean, I really thought Coach Prime was going to step forward big time. We talked about that Friday. Couldn't have been more disappointing to me, even though he finished third, got beat just a length, but he had every chance every step of the way. And he lost me with this race. You can't get beat with that kind of trip against this level of competition. And be a good colt. Now, one race isn't a career, but until proven otherwise, Coach Prime was off my list. As for Winstock, he's a nice colt, a beat Stronghold, a colt that had been trounced by 9 lengths in his previous start by Nisos. So that kind of helps the form a little bit for Nisos. But I don't know how good this race was. The 86 Byron number is okay. It's not great. It's okay. But I don't know. I don't think we saw the Kentucky Derby winner in this race.
Yeah, and if he is going to be the Kentucky Derby winner, there's going to have to be some regulatory changes, right?
That's another reason why I don't think
changes. Ed Allred, the owner of Los Alamitos Racecourse, also co-owner of the course here that we're talking about in Winstock, said he's strongly in the Baffert corner that he will not change trainers just to run in the Kentucky Derby. So if Winstock turns out to be a Kentucky Derby horse, he will not run in Louisville unless Baffert's ban is lifted, according to Allred. So look, things change. You're only a Derby horse once in your life, but Allred's, had a lot of success in the racing game and has a lot of money. Maybe he doesn't need to go to Kentucky and wants to stand on the principle that he's backing there. So very interesting. It adds another layer of intrigue, politics, discussion, debate to this very seedy last few years between CDI and Bob Baffert. Just another layer to it. Yep. Like you, I'm not so sure this is a Kentucky Derby horse when we get farther down the line, but for right now, when you win the Los Al Futurity in December, you get a 2-turn graded stakes win on a major circuit in Southern California. You're in the discussion at this stage.
Yeah, again, on resume, you would think so, but I'm not sold. But he's got he got all winter to sell me. So there you have it. But I was disappointed. My main takeaway was that I was wrong about Coach Prime. I thought he'd step up. He didn't really step up. So we'll see. Again, Nisos is going to cast a huge shadow among all the 3-year-olds, coming 3-year-olds that Bob has anyway. So we'll watch him. And again, the same situation. He's going to have to go somewhere else before the Kentucky Derby to get in the Derby. Otherwise, he won't have any points, and that means he won't be in the race.
Let's stay on the Derby Trail and the points chase in our Triple Crown tracker and go to Remington Park in Oklahoma City, where it was Springboard Mile Night last Friday. My good friend Dale Day, who celebrated his birthday yesterday, belated happy birthday, Dale, on the mic. Here's his call of a half-mile throwdown between Glenn Gary and Otto the Conqueror.
They got the half at 46.35, and they're rolling up front. Glenn Gary by a neck at the rail. Otto the Conqueror keeping company right there with a quarter mile left now, and Otto the Conqueror making his move right now with Glenn Gary. They're on even terms as they go to the stretch. From the back, Raging Torrent still third, fighting off Magic Grant, My Buddy Mel, nothing from 3rd Street in the stretch in the Springboard Mile. Race on. Otto the Conqueror on the outside. Glenn Gary's the gray at the rail. They're nose to nose with a furlong left. Magic Grant emerging 3rd. Final 16th coming up. Otto the Conqueror now by ahead, trying to battle back. Glenn Gary doing so at the rail. Otto the Conqueror has more left, and Otto the Conqueror will get it by a half length, winning the Springboard. Otto the Conqueror.
Fast early, they were all tired late, Jeff, but there were a lot of punches exchanged from the opening bell. Otto the Conqueror and company, they just went right after the pace setter in here, Glenn Gary, and this was a race. I said a half-mile throwdown. It was probably 7/8 of a mile where they threw it down. There were no breathers given.
No, it was a really exciting race, although I did like Glenn Gary, and he ran as well as I thought he would, but he just failed to get the trip, and I'll give credit to the winner who dogged him every step of the way, Otto the Conqueror, and just prevailed late. They went very fast early, very slow late, understandably so, over a wet track, muddy track. Otto Commander in his first try around 2 turns, got the mile. I'm not sure whether he's probably not going to be more effective sprinting, though. And I know that Doug Anderson, who trains Glenn Gary, had seen enough. Yeah. He said, we're going back to sprinting, which is absolutely the right thing to do. I mean, when you get beat a short length or 3/4 of a length in a 2-turn race, the initial response for most trainers and some owners is, well, he can go a mile, he can go far. No.
Yeah.
This is what he wants. Back him up. There are plenty of races around 1 turn he can run in. I don't know what the plan is with Asmussen and Otto the Conqueror, but all I know is after getting beaten his first 2 starts, he's won 3 in a row now. And but he might be another colt that might prefer 1 turn. It'll be interesting to see where he shows up. But a terrific race. And the only real thing I was right about in this race was Raging Torn, who was shipping from California, who actually went off the 6-5 favorite.
Yeah.
He wound up last. Didn't like his form at all. And they have to reevaluate him and allow him to be what he should be, which is lesser than this.
Right.
But good, typical, really exciting race at Remington. They had a great day of night racing. Unfortunately, Brad Cox's horses were not allowed to run because they had I guess they were medicated twice or something like that. I don't know. You can maybe explain that, what happened, but it was a medication problem. But it's still a good evening of racing at Remington.
Yeah, apparently it came out in the racing press in the days after, several days after the fact on Friday, that Brad Cox's horses, he said, were treated before they left their fairgrounds base, or Oaklawn base, I should say, in Hot Springs. And then when they arrived in Oklahoma City, they were also treated. He pulled the horses out in the middle of the night before the Springboard Mile. They never saw the vets, that sort of thing like that. There was never any pre-race testing at Remington Park because they had already pulled out and left to head back to Hot Springs. So they will recalibrate, if you will. In fact, one of the fillies, West Omaha, who was supposed to run in the Trapeze Stakes, she's entered Saturday at Oaklawn in the Philly Stakes there, or Saturday at Fairgrounds, I should say. Right. She's headed to New Orleans to run there this weekend. So we'll see an immediate turnaround there. As for the 1-2 finishers in the Springboard Mile, Otto the Conqueror and also Glengarry, they're both headed to Oaklawn next. We'll see what's up for them. All the races really on the trail to the Arkansas Derby are 2 turns. There is the Gazebo Stakes. There is a sprint during the course of the meet at Oaklawn, but if they're going to cut back in distance, they're probably going to wait a little while, maybe point towards something at Keeneland in the spring would make a lot of sense for Glengarry, for sure, being a stakes winner of the Bowman Mill at Keeneland. You could see him cutting back, trying to run in the Lafayette in the spring meet there. 7/8 of a mile at Keeneland might be the kind of race that he would go for, and towards something, like you said, staying around 1 turn. As for Otto the Conqueror, we'll see if he gets 2 turns or not. His dam won the first 3 races of her career, including the Schuylerville at Saratoga for Josie Carroll, but then she went 0 for 2 after that, didn't do anything as a 3-year-old. And you go back a few generations and it's unraced dam, unraced dam, unraced dam. There's not a lot to tell you that Otto the Conqueror is going to go long based on the dam side of the pedigree, but we'll find out. He got the 2 turns here, but like you, I suspect he's probably going to be better in the 1-turn trips.
I tell you, there's a good race this Saturday too, Jeremy, the Gun Runner, and I'm very it's a Fairgrounds $100,000 listed stakes, and I'm really looking forward to a colt named Nash, who was all the rage at Churchill. He broke his, he was second in his debut at Keeneland, and then he won by 10 for Brad Cox in a maiden race mid-November, and earned a 97 buyer number. I mean, that is fast. Right. So let's see if he can duplicate that against winners in the Gun Runner on Saturday as we start. I mean, it's not too early to talk Triple Crown and Kentucky Derby. And if this colt were to win this race, he'll be right in there with the rest of them, trying to verify that very favorable impression he made at Churchill last time out.
Yeah, my Countdown to the Crown blog series will return for the 19th season. The first Friday in January, it's always the standard opening. So like Jeff said, it's never too early to talk Triple Crown. We're only a couple weeks away from the return of the 19th season of Countdown to the Crown. Saturday, race number 12 at Fairgrounds is the one Jeff's talking about, the Gun Runner Stakes. Check that one out. Be sure to play it with Express Bet and First Bet. Now, there's some controversy going around Twitter every once in a while in horse racing that you say, maybe it's not justified. It's just people kind of complaining to complain. Jeff, after the North American Graded Stakes Committee announced their graded stakes for 2024, Twitter blew up. Horse racing Twitter was apoplectic and justified in this particular case. I don't understand what this committee of racing secretaries, owners, breeders, the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, TOBA heads up the Graded Stakes Committee. I don't know what they're looking at anymore, Jeff. Some of the decisions made as far as races downgraded, some races upgraded, were just absolutely head scratching to me. We're going to give some of the details of what went down, how many races are graded, who went up, who went down, and talk about some of the headlines. Let me start off just by giving the raw numbers here, Jeff. Then I'm going to get your opinion on what exactly any of this means. The grade one stakes for 2024, there were 93 of them named for 2024 season. One race was upgraded. We'll talk about that strange upgrade of that particular race. 5 races were downgraded. We'll also talk about the head scratching downgrade of 5 of these grade ones. As for grade 2, there were 137 of them scheduled for next year. 9 races were upgraded. 10 races were downgraded out of grade 2 status, and 199 grade 3 races. They added 4 new races that were listed last year. 15 races that were grade 3s are no longer graded stakes races. So, Jeff, let's talk about some of the headlines and what we saw. The big one is the upgrade of the one grade 1 stakes in all of American racing. If you had to pick one race, Jeff, you just look at it and you say, damn, that's a grade 1. Did you have the Franklin Simpson Stakes at Kentucky Downs on your bingo card?
Well, first of all, I had to look it up to find out where it was. We don't look too much at the Kentucky Downs races out here in California, although look, I mean, there are good races, there are a tremendous amount of money and all that, but
sure.
And I mean, of all the grade 1 races, I mean, I know that. First of all, let's establish the fact that I think this is we're 50 years into this now with the grade 1 with the grading system, and it was originally created the methods to try to help the breeders out, to try to figure out when you were selling mares or selling foals out of mares or standing stallions, that giving them a little bit of a boost to their resume and trying to promote the fact that these were horses that won top graded races. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you this. I used to buy a lot of brood mares and a lot of yearlings and stood my own stallion. And I've had some experience in this. And I can tell you that I never bought a horse based on what graded races they won before actually looking up the race to see what it was. Because we know that there are grade 1s and there are grade 1s that shouldn't even be graded. Mm-hmm. And there are listed stakes that come up tougher than grade 1. So if you really want to know how good a race was or how good a horse is, take the next step and look up the race. The problem is we weren't able to do that until the internet came around.
Right.
I don't know if you ever did this, Jeremy, but I used to buy the Racing Form, the paper edition, every day, and I would keep them in my garage for 4.5, 5. That's the only way you can use them for reference. You couldn't write it up. So maybe it was a useful thing back then for the first 30 years of its existence. But now I really want to find out how good a horse really was. I just click and look at the chart. And we didn't have speed figures that were available then. That's one way you can evaluate how good a race was. The bottom line is this. I don't really care anymore. I don't. I mean, I have a better way of evaluating a horse for my own purpose than going by some arbitrary grade of a race that was graded that way before the entries or even the race was even run. How do you know how good a horse race it was just because it was good the previous year? So, I mean, some people like it. It's good for the racing secretaries like it because they can attract their horses to their race if they need to get out of town runners. But other than that, I got more important things to worry about than this. That's how
I think that's kind of the moral of the story is, as horse racing fans, we need to disassociate ourselves with the graded stakes system as of any meaning whatsoever. It's done by TOBA, the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, like you said, to help create book value in sales. And it's racing secretaries who are also part of the committee, and their job is to attract horses to their races. So it is a self-serving committee doing self-serving things, and it is defining what it wants to define. And we're taking it as grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 means they are the elite of the elite races. And they're not. They're the races that these people in these 2 particular niches within the niche industry want to establish credibility for. So I think we just need to disassociate ourselves with it as horse players and handicappers as if it has any significance at all. Here are the headlines from, just kind of, if you look at it as a true fan and say this is supposed to be the creme de la creme, these headlines are infuriating. Franklin Simpson is the only Grade 1 stakes upgraded this year. There has not been a single horse come out of the Franklin Simpson Stakes, a turf sprint at Kentucky Downs, to do anything of any major significance at the Grade 1 level. Why the race was upgraded, there's no point system that would provide that, other than the fact that I think they are trying to create an entire division of Grade 1, Grade 2, Grade 3 turf sprints. You also see down at the headline at the bottom, turf sprints seem to be the new push. Keeneland and Churchill Downs both got listed stakes races upgraded to Grade 3s this year. There were very few upgrades to Grade 3s. Two of them were turf sprints in Kentucky. Kentucky seems to have done very well in this discussion, and turf sprints have done very well in this discussion. Take that for what it's worth. The downgraded Grade 1 races, the Carter in New York, the Beverly D, one of the best turf races in America, this year won by Fev Rover at Colonial Downs. I don't know why that race would immediately be yanked of its Grade 1 after 1 year at Colonial Downs after the closure of Arlington. The Hollywood Gold Cup now run at Santa Anita. You can debate that being a summer kind of in-between race between the Big Cap and at Santa Anita and the Del Mar Big Race, the Pacific Classic. Maybe you can debate the Hollywood Gold Cup's not a Grade 1 anymore. But the Man of War on turf, the United Nations on turf, these races were all downgraded from Grade 1s. And the biggest, silliest, stupidest downgrade of all is that the Vosburg Stakes, which has produced the Breeders' Cup Sprint winner each of the last 2 years, was downgraded from a Grade 2 to a Grade 3. Jeff, if you're going to tell me that the Vosburg Stakes after back-to-back Breeders' Cup Sprint winners is a Grade 3, I don't know what we're looking at. The Count Fleet at Oaklawn is still a Grade 3, and if you look at the horses who have run at the Count Fleet over the last 5 years, your jaw would drop. Every sprint champion that we have crowned in like the last 5 or 6 years has come through the Count Fleet at Oaklawn. That's still a Grade 3. So if we're talking that the Vosburg and the Count Fleet are Grade 3 stakes races, then the 1, 2, 3 means nothing.
Well stated. Couldn't have said it better, Jeremy. And that's one of the reasons why I don't pay attention to it. I think it's a waste of time. If I want to find out how good a horse was, which is what the graded system is supposed to help you determine, I got a lot better ways to do it than looking at whether or not it's a Grade 1, Grade 2, or Grade 3, because I don't trust any of them, quite frankly.
Let's turn our attention to Santa Anita on Tuesday, where it will be opening day of the winter spring meet of old, but now the Classic Meet, renamed last year. Santa Anita's Classic Meet gets underway December 26th, the day after Christmas, exactly 1 week from today. Let's get excited with a little hype video, if you will, of Santa Anita's opening, and Jeff and I will tell you what to look for.
Time is measured differently here. Years, decades, generations begin to blur. This place has its own time, its own minutes, its own seconds, where old and new run in the same circles, where big is small, and small is big. It's a place where being completely in the moment is the only way for time to stand still. Time, that is. Not you. In this place, your moments are yours to play however you want. Santa Anita Park, the timeless playground.
And it all starts again on Tuesday, December the 26th, Classic Meet at Santa Anita opening. Jeff, you've been to just about every winter meet at Santa Anita for the last 40 plus years. This is your backyard. This is your place to race. And opening day, it doesn't get much better than that with a just loaded stake schedule.
Especially this year, 11 race program. They're expected to have 6 stakes. Obviously, the Malibu looks very interesting as always. And I think, with horses being freshened, not a whole lot of grass racing, not very little grass racing in California in the month of December. So the grass horses will be fresh. 50% or more of the races will be on turf as long as we have good weather, which we will not have in the next few days here. But that's okay. Get the rain out of the way. It'll dry out, and we'll have a great sunny day on opening day. I'm really looking forward now as a gambler to diving in and really playing the Santa Anita Turf Pick 3. To me, the $3 version, that's it. I remember when they first introduced it, and I don't know who in the marketing came up with this idea, but it's great. Opening day during the fall meeting at Santa Anita, the first one paid $187 for 3. The 3 winners were 8-5, 9-5, and 6-5. Paid $187.
Right.
So I mean, to me, that's where my gambling attention is going to go to. They're having the pick 6 again, but it's only $1. I'd rather have it 2. Right. I'm not sure how involved I'll get with that, although I know that a lot of people like to pay the $1 version because it gives them a chance, and that's cool. But for me, my main focus is on the Santa Anita Turf Pick 3, and I will have a video analysis every racing day. Try to get the serious gambler, the high end gambler involved. I think he will appreciate the opportunity to bet a little and win a lot, and so we'll be doing that. But the sport itself is going to be really good. So I can't wait for next Tuesday. I can't wait for the entries Friday to dive in and start handicapping and look at this stake schedule. Malibu, the La Brea, American Oaks, Grade 1 event for 3-year-old fillies. Mathis Mile is a good race for 3-year-olds turning 4 actually in a week. San Antonio, San Gabriel for long distance turf horses. I've looked at the nominees. The fields should be pretty good size. The money's good. Racing will be great.
We will have a special $10,000 hit and split on the opening day late pick 4 when you play with Express Bet and First Bet at Santa Anita coming up on Tuesday the 26th. So be sure to check that out and make sure you opt into all of the promos. Santa Anita opening day just a week away. Now that 26th of December will be our celebrated Christmas holiday. Actually, we'll be hanging out with playing the races at the track. So no podcast next week on the 26th. We're going to observe that as our Christmas holiday, if you will. In podcast land, Jeff and I are going to be knee deep in opening day at Santa Anita a week from today. And then we'll join you in the first Tuesday of the new year. But we've got one more topic for you this week on It's Official. As we do each and every week, we're looking for a star of tomorrow. And we go to South Florida for this one. Christophe Clement looks like he's got a pretty nice filly. And we're going to take a look at El Torero, this week's star of tomorrow.
They're on their way home, and El Terreno with an easy lead early, and it's even easier now. An eighth of a mile out, the daughter of Schweitstown pouring it on. This will be 2 for 2 and impressive at that. Here's El Terreno, a dominant second race winner. Up for second, Bubbly Champagne. Dot is third. Bedrock Birdie is fourth.
So, Jeff, tell us about our star of tomorrow, El Terreno.
Well, I'm going to give. I know Christophe Clement, who trains this filly. He's not what I would call a gambling trainer. In other words, he's a guy who likes to develop young horses, and he had this filly at Presque Isle Downs for whatever reason. October 25th of this year, she won that race by a pole. I think she was like 8-1, or I don't know how they hit her that well. Brings her back down to Gulfstream for this non-winners of 2. This time she was 2-5. Okay. Yeah. She had done so much in her debut, and she comes back and does it again, runs 55-3 over the all-weather surface, 3/5 of a second off the track record, the course record for the distance at Gulfstream Park. Under wraps, and a 2-year-old filly by Speightstown, and out of a Malibu Moon Mare, an unraced mare who was a half-sister to a really good 3-year-old that you remember, Jeremy, I Want Revenge, a few years back, won the Wood Memorial. Pretty good family here as well. So I think she's got a chance. Now, she's won 2 races, both of them on synthetic. Obviously never routed yet, but she might be a lot better than maybe people think. I mean, her numbers were strong. Again, she could have gone a lot faster if they let her run here. I'm really curious to see how she would perform on conventional dirt, if in fact that's her next start. And I can't really wait to see her run on grass. She should absolutely love the turf. So lots of options for this 2-turn-3 beautifully bred filly, El Toreno, winner last week of our first level allowance at Gulfstream Park.
Here is a look at our 5 topics this week that are now official because Jeff Siegel and I said so. That's the way we play the game. We took a review of 2023. We talked about the most significant and memorable storyline being Cody's Wish. We talked about the sophomore class and its ups and downs in 2023. Our most underrated horses of the season. I went idiomatic in the distaff division. Jeff said elite power among the sprinters. And the horse we're looking at to talk about most next year at this time, Jeff says, look out for Nisos, the 2-year-old for Bob Baffert, about to turn 3. Speaking of 3-year-olds, our Triple Crown tracker took you to Winstock's victory at Los Alamitos, Otto the Conqueror winning at Remington Park in Oklahoma City, and the Springboard Mile. And then we looked ahead to Saturday's big one at Fairgrounds with 10 Kentucky Derby prep points to the winner, where Nash headlines the field for the Gunrunner Stakes in New Orleans. Making the grades, say what? Yeah, the Graded Stakes Committee made some very curious choices. We had some pointed opinions on that. Bottom line, we say ignore it as a horse player. This is something for the breeders and the racing secretaries. Let them enjoy their grades. 7 days out from Santa Anita as opening day comes up on December 26th. Jeff, very much looking forward to the Turf Pick 3, the Santa Anita Turf Pick 3. Looking forward to that from a betting standpoint. $10,000 late pick 4 hit and split on opening day with First Bet and Express Bet. And our stars of tomorrow this week featured El Terreno, a allowance winner at Gulfstream Park, now 2 for 2 for trainer Christophe Clement. That's going to wrap things up for us on this week's edition of It's Official. We will not have a broadcast next week on December 26th, opening day at Santa Anita. Be sure to be checking things out at Express Bet and First Bet with all the content we'll have between now and then. Jeff and I will return on Friday for our First Call podcast, where we'll handicap some weekend stakes races and get you set. Huge weekend at Fairgrounds coming up. Big racing in Maryland, where it's the Christmastide Stakes Day on Saturday. A lot of good stakes action there and other races around the country. Gulfstream Park's got the return of the H. Allen Jerkins, a race that was washed out last week because of rain. That'll be back on the calendar this weekend. And also the Mr. Prospector for good sprinters. Sibelius, the horse who won the Mr. Prospector and then went to Dubai and won the Golden Shaheen, back in action on Saturday at Gulfstream. So a lot of good action coming up. Jeff, you and I will be back on Friday to talk about it.
Yeah, good racing. Calm before the storm, as they say. Although the storm here, as I mentioned, will be taking place on Wednesdays and Thursdays this week. Get the rain out of the way.
Yeah.
We'll gear up for weekend racing around the country on Friday on our First Call show. And then I'll be putting up stuff on Sunday to get you a couple of days a head start handicapping the races at Santa Anita. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to another great weekend. And next week, for me anyway, that's my Christmas, the day after Christmas.
Can't wait for it. If we don't see you between now and the holidays, happy holidays, everybody. But we expect to see you back here on Friday when we get handicapping on the First Call podcast. On behalf of everybody with First Technologies and Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great day and happy holidays.